Hi, this is Graphically Alex coming at you with all things fat related. If that's something that interests you, please subscribe. I'd love to have you. Today we're going to finish this out. I just have to say I have a really bad migraine today. This is one of those days where it's kind of like nauseatingly bad. I'm feeling a little depressed. The cold is tough, but it's depression from the migraine, which I think it has to do with the end of the anhedonia. So yeah, my brain is changing a lot. But it's been brutal today. Absolutely brutal. But I just want to say the storm, it wasn't too bad where I'm at. There's like barely any ice on the ground, so I'll probably be able to just go back to normal tomorrow. Go back to the gym and everything. I really just took today. And something just fell. I just have to say that I'm getting to this point in the winter where it's starting to kill my soul. Like, I really do not like winter at all. And I don't know what it is about, like, especially when we get like towards February and late January, it's just like, oh my God, I can't do this. Like, it's almost like you start to forget what it was like when it wasn't winter, which I know this is really dramatic, but I really just hate it. And then I've been having food noise and stuff quite a bit. I think because of the storm, I was a little bit bothered that I couldn't go out and stuff and I couldn't work and that kind of thing. And it was so like, it's not even a big deal because it was only like a day. But it still happens, there's the food noisiness. I wonder too if migraines had to do with it, but it's probably just like wanting to soothe, but I stick to it. So it doesn't really matter. Which I know is kind of savage to say, especially in like TR communities. In the TR world, it's pretty savage to be like, I just don't listen to food noise, period. But that's basically what it is. You just don't listen to it. Because it's psychological. And yeah, it's like I want to escape the situation. And I can't. I want to escape my migraine. I want to escape the winter. I can't do that. So, yeah. These are like the last tiniest vestiges of the TR within me. And they're so dead. But, like, it's so not even anything. But I just want to say, like, if you are doing the damn thing this winter, I'm with you. It's tough, I'm not sure if I might be in a low-key deficit, but if it is, it's very cute. So it's not anything drastic, but I'm still like, But anyways, that's enough of that. Enough complaining. We're going to just finish this. I just decided, I'm like, let's just do this so I can finish this one and we can all be miserable together listening to two miserable people. Okay? So let's finish.
Folks who are within reach of being considered thin people, that would be a really heartbreaking and hard thing. For someone my size, thin has never not been in. Right? Like, there has never been a point where...
Yeah, so she's attacking the mid-sized princesses with that statement. She's kind of saying... She's kind of throwing shade at mid-sized people. So she's like, oh, if the standards are higher for you, then blah, blah, blah. Aubrey, they were still in the gutter. I was obese and I was having mid-size issues. So American standards are pretty low still. Like, and that was as of 2025, that was 2 years after Aubrey did this, and it was still that way. So I'm like, just stop. No.
people are like, yes, look at this amazing size 26 person, right? Like that is an extremely rare thing for us culturally. But like, yeah, it's a fascinating thing that like I don't think it's that people thought uh anti-fatness was no longer socially acceptable. I think it still is extraordinarily socially acceptable because it is accepted. But for the first time, people would have to answer to it to anyone. Someone might leave a comment and go, hey, maybe think about this, or hey, this doesn't feel good to read, or whatever. I mean, I think that's sort of where we're at, is that someone will say something to you if you say something anti-fat, potentially, depending on where you are, depending on the context, right?
Well, as you bring up in your book, like I think this is myth number 10, like we
Yeah, I think what she's framing as like this, oh, sometimes you'll have to say something, sometimes you'll have to hear something. What she's framing that as, she I remember reading a lot of Aubrey Gordon. She does not know anything about her movement, or she doesn't keep up with trends within fat acceptance. It's just her experience of fatness in the 80s and 90s and 2000s. That's basically all she thinks about. She doesn't consider the moment. She, for example, never acknowledged that a person in fat acceptance advocated against downsizing or shamed people for downsizing or anything like that. She didn't acknowledge that whatsoever. That's a problem. You know, that was something that happened all the time. And that happened a lot within fat acceptance. Like, they just don't acknowledge the flaws of their movement, or they don't acknowledge things that, or like situations where they're being super aggressive. They never really saw that. But again, I want to remind you guys, this is not your typical movement. This is a zombie outbreak. You know, this is something that people are having these visceral emotional reactions to things that people say. And so things switch on a dime. It's like purely based on emotion. It's not based in policy. It's not based in anything like that. It's based in disorder. So it's like they get upset. It's not that strategic at all. Which is why it's kind of horrifying to me that it has gotten this far, even having basically no strategy. But it just shows like how social the TR, like the toxic ritualistic world, aka E followed by letter D, it shows how social that is, because it's like you're supposed to have these reactions to certain things, or even if you don't communicate it within the group, they all feel the same way. So she's acting like, well, we just barely say like, hey, this doesn't feel good, rather than hating on thin women, hating on mid-sized women a lot, rather than counseling somebody for wanting to downsize, rather than acting like somebody has something to owe you, or they explain something to you. They have to explain it to you why they're on Ozempic, or why they got surgery, or why they're doing things naturally, even though that's never acknowledged, because they don't like to acknowledge natural downsizing, because that's something that they have access to, and so they don't want to ever acknowledge it. They'll just say, well, I can't do surgery, I can't do Ozempic. So they only acknowledge those. So there's a lot of like cognitive bias, I guess, if that's the right term, or there's a lot of like framing in the mind and just completely ignoring huge portions of reality. But remember why it happens. It's to keep it going. Everything is to keep it going. So she has to frame her movement as some kind of new revolutionary thing, rather than what has been the majority of Americans, especially for decades, you know, or for at least a decade. I mean, I don't remember exactly when obesity became the majority in the United States, but it's been a while. It's well entrenched right now to the craziest of levels. You have them taking over the toxic ritualistic clinics, they're taking over. Like, you had Virgie Tovar in some position in San Francisco, I believe that was the city. Like, she was talking to doctors and, like, oh gosh, I need to react to that. That was so horrifying to me when she was there. But it's like they're invading institutions, basically. They're trying to, like, I'm just saying, like, they're so entrenched. And admittedly, there's a lot of money in fat acceptance. I do think there are some shady, kind of corporate ties to it and stuff, and companies that will profit off of downsizing, but also selling you crap food at the same time. Like, there's a lot of that kind of stuff. This issue is very manipulated, but I try to, like, focus a bit. All I'm trying to say is, like, I do think there are certain powers that be that are completely pleased with the TR world just taking over because there's money to be made, even though that's not exactly how the TR spreads. It's getting so bad that normal people say toxic ritualistic mindsets now. Normal people parrot things that in the past it was only people that had these issues. And when in the case of BINGE, there's virtually no stigma. And in fact, you're almost, in some circles, you're almost stigmatized for not having it. Like, if I was, let's say I was at, like, a fat acceptance brunch or something, and I was like, I'm feeling a little bit food noisy, but I'm just going to stay on plan, or, like, I don't really want to, I wouldn't even have to say that. I could just say, oh, I don't want any. What? Why? I just don't want any. So it's like, it's wild to me how out of control it has gotten, especially with a complete lack of strategy, which is why I'm like, I feel like if we just strategize, we can actually do something about this pretty easily. And I think that there's just so many distractions and so many people are distracted from this issue, and it could actually be fixed, which is why I'm like, I'm still here, because I think we can do this, I do have a lot of concerns about the fate of the public when it comes to this issue, because it really, there's a lot of concerning trends, I'll put it to you that way. Even despite it losing its cultural grip, and despite Gen Z, for the most part, escaping a lot of it, which is good. So that helps. Like I said, there's hope, but it's still, that's kind of my face when I think about it. It's like, so, but I'm totally, you guys can be more positive than me or more negative. I think every position is valid. I think we're at a very big inflection point within anti-fat acceptance. But I think I need to come up with some strategies. I want to help you guys fight it. So I need to do better. I want to do better. I always feel that way, though. That's just me. That's my Virgo. My Virgo Jupiter. It's unrelenting, I'll tell you that much.
We now feel as though if we don't interrupt fatness when we see it, for example, someone just living in their body in a nice outfit online, we consider that to be that we are allowing the glorification of fatness.
Oftentimes, I accuse people of glorifying obesity if they don't talk about the health issues they have, if you're not being honest about what is actually happening to you, which a lot of people dissociate. So sometimes it's not even intentionally dishonest because they have to basically divorce their mind from their body. There's a huge mind-body disconnect within the TR, and there has to be in order to continue, because it's too caustic what you're doing. So that's why I do consider it glorifying obesity, because if you will not talk about your health effects or issues from the obesity, then you are lying about it. And if you are lying about it, even if it's a lie by omission, you are glorifying it. You're being dishonest.
Yeah.
Can you unpack that for me? This, like, where this myth has come from? Because I've really rarely seen this in any other context. But a fat person existing online is considered to be glorifying or promoting fatness.
Yeah, it's a fascinating thing. So I will say this usually shows up as a
It's also interesting too, because these fat activists, and within the TR world, the very existence of, especially an extremely, let me spell it out, THIN woman, that is enough to cause a toxic ritualistic issue, but they can't see it. So they're so hypocritical. So they'll be like, well, just a fat person existing, that's not glorifying anything. But if there's that extremely THIN woman, she's absolutely glorifying the toxic ritualistic. And it's like, I don't think that it's enough to just like be present. But if you do not lie about if you are present but you do not lie about the health effects of what you're doing, and you do talk about how awful you feel, then that is not glorification. So when I became more present in this space, and I'm speaking from action, I am not a hypocrite. I did do this when I was very big, and I stepped into this sphere. I talked about it. I talked about how awful I felt all the time, to the point where people were actually irritated because you want to see progress, you want to see growth, and you want to see some kind of positivity or some kind of hope. And I understand that. But I wanted to be very, very intentional to not glorify obesity and talk about how awful it actually is, to warn against getting as big as I did because of how difficult it was to get out. And also to give some kind of acknowledgement to other people who are and were super morbidly obese, that yes, it really is that hard. You're not crazy. It's harder for us, especially because it was constantly stated, and it's a common myth, that it's easier when you're very big. It's not. It's actually harder. The easiest it is to lose weight is when you're class 1 obese. That's the easiest. So class 1 obesity, that is when it's the easiest. And it doesn't mean it's easy. It just means it's easiest. Once you get to just overweight, there's a lot of moodiness in that, but it's not hard physically. Physically, it's easiest when you're overweight. But just altogether, I would say class 1 obese is the easiest, just because if I think about the process, so the actual tracking, what you have to do diet-wise, the workouts, all that, you don't have to work out super hard or anything like that. And then you are moody still when you're class 1 obese, or I was a brat, right? So I was very up and down, but it was just kind of oh my gosh, I can't believe we're going to the gym again today. It was kind of like that, but it wasn't anything terrible as far as the process itself, so I do suggest, if you're in a long haul downsizing journey, you can get some stuff done in that class 1 obese phase, because it's easier, so you can focus on other areas of life. Once you get to the mids, it's harder, but it's usually just harder because you really do have to work out. And then you do have to lean on some diet culture foods. So you'll probably have to start leaning on some low-calorie stuff. Or, protein water, some bullshit like that. Okay, you're going to have to start leaning on certain things from a mid-sized princess perspective, in my opinion. I mean, you don't have to. Obviously, if you can do it, you can do it, period. Don't get me wrong. But as far as like vanity, then it's hard, especially if you're going for a deep, focused journey. Then it's really hard. So at that point, it's that part of it is about as hard as morbid. I still don't think it's as hard as super morbid, but it's just as hard as morbid obesity, especially in the throes of it, like at the very end when you can like barely handle it anymore. And you're going to probably have to stop when you start to become a diet culture vampire. It's very much similar to morbid. So if you've done it, if you've done like a deep vanity weight era, then you understand to a certain extent, other than within morbid, you don't have a choice to opt out. You still feel horrible. Even if you eat more, even if you're maintaining, you still feel awful. With vanity, you always have an out. So it's different. But it's tough. So like I said, I'm working to create Vanity Era 2.0 because I'm not doing that again. I'm not. So, because I have to still function. So I'm going to figure out that how can I function and be extroverted and do the things I need to do and move my life forward outside of downsizing, but still make progress, even if that is coming at a sacrifice of speed. So it's like it's slower. So I'm working on my talking points. You're going to hear me say this stuff over the next few days because I'm working on the next era. So we're moving forward because I want to find the easier vanity method and then teach about that. So that's what we're doing. Okay.
Response to a photograph of a fat person on a beach or eating a meal or with their friends, not actively working out, not talking about their weight loss goals in the caption, not any of that sort of stuff that might indicate that they are on a path toward thinness or that they know that their body is going to be perceived as socially incorrect somehow.
It's unhealthy, Aubrey.
We'll get these waves of comments from people saying, of course we shouldn't treat fat people badly, but we also can't glorify obesity or promote obesity.
Yes, that's the correct take.
Which is a bizarre response to a picture of somebody having a nice day at the beach, right? Like, at that...
It's typically not that. It's typically somebody who's saying, I can go to the beach even because I'm fat or something. Or I enjoy the beach more because I'm fat. That's promoting it. So I think she might just... I don't even know if Aubrey like follows anybody, to be honest. I think that she just wants to... She likes to just... It's Aubrey's world. I'll put it to you that way, you know? So I don't even think she's watching anybody really or looking. That's...
point, those commenters are now assigning a social agenda and a political agenda that does not necessarily exist in that fat person's post. And I think my thinking on this is, I think one of the number one questions about glorifying obesity is like, how do you respond when someone says you're glorifying obesity? And my response to that is, I don't. That is someone who is telling me they are not interested in seeing my humanity. That is someone who is more panicked about...
Oh my gosh. That is so dramatic, Aubrey. That was a remnant from her MSP era. That was that little tiny touch. She learned that one when she was long ago. When she was a mid-sized princess, probably way back in the day. I'm telling you, mid-sized princess psychology, it is tricky. You do have to shake it. You got to get it out. You have to kind of reject it. It's not as bad as like the TR and It and Pennywise. That one you got to be vicious. It's like, no, and you like stomp it out. And you're like, that's stupid. But you do have to kind of be like, I'm being a little dramatic. Or you do have to sometimes, have a friend in your life that will tell you, have a Claire from Degrassi for any of my millennials that watch Degrassi, but you need to have a friend that's like, that's pedestrian, It's a pedestrian problem, you know, or like that's a first world problem. You know, it's like you need to kind of work to keep your perspective if you're having a mid-sized princess moment. Because it's like, yes, the princess and the pea. Yes, you're very upset about that pea. I get it. I get it. Trust me, I get it. I so get it. But it is still just a pea. So keep that perspective. You don't have to be like super harsh with yourself. I don't actually think it helps in a mid era to do that. I think it's better to just be like, just, you know, just, you could just cry about going to the dentist. But just as long as like your brain knows that it's kind of stupid, that you're crying about going to the dentist, then it's okay. But her saying that, my humanity, they don't want to acknowledge my humanity because they're talking to me about glorifying obesity. Like, no. That is not a fire in your mind you should ever feed. That is really stupid. It's just dumb.
About having to look at a
Pedestrian
fat person than they are interested in understanding our experiences or showing up for us in any real way. I'm like so deeply here for good faith conversations.
I don't think she is. She's acting like MSP right here. I'm like, whoa, Aubrey. Do you need the crown right now? That is so extra. Also, if you're MSP, be careful about like that. It's like this. I mean, it's going to happen. If you're in it, it's going to happen. But there's this competitiveness in it. And sometimes, like, we're not, especially coming from BINGE, we're not as well versed in how to express that competition healthfully. So we try to suppress it, and then it comes out weirdly, like what she just did. That was like a shadow competition aspect. Well, they're just not on my level, or they just don't understand, or they're just this, they're just that. And it's like, Aubrey, you're literally a fucking activist. That is so dumb. That is such a shitty thing. And like, I've had my moments where I've been, you know, I was a mid-sized princess as an activist, but I really still tried to always answer questions. Or if I couldn't do it right, then I just would be like, I just won't, because I'm too mad. But it wasn't about like, you're stupid for asking that question. It's, or maybe it was sometimes, I don't know. I can't say that. I was really mad all the time. I don't remember every detail, but for the most part, I still knew what my job was, and I still knew that I needed to answer questions, or I still would take things in and then work them into my talking points if things were not being understood. Because at the end of the day, it's on you, Aubrey. But again, this is one of the reasons why I think we can really win, because they suck. They're horrible activists. And their lack of accountability, it's not just in regards to the weight issue. It's also the lack of accountability. It affects their activism. So we can fight. It's not that hard. I promise you. I promise you. The biggest thing with this is we need a lot of numbers, because they have a lot of numbers. And it's not hard to fight. So I'm like, I just need to like, we got to get more on the offense, you know. I'm doing it in this next era. I'm telling you, we got to do this. I'm going to do my best with that, because it's like, it's not that hard. As long as you guys know where to hit it, which I'll tell you where, to the best that I can, then you can do it. Like, one of the things Lisa told me is I said something in a video, and I said, like, just state your opinion and then don't change your mind, and they'll freak out. And so she did that on Twitter, and she's like, yeah, I just didn't change my mind, and they couldn't handle it. Like, people are so used to people just caving to that kind of thing. And it's like, you just don't cave. Just say no. Weight is not genetic. What? At the very least, they're not going to bug you again. So it's good for you too. It's good for the person. It's good for you. It's good for society. I'm telling you. can do this. I know we can.
And
I just need to really sit and think about it, you know? It needs an era. It does.
the trolls who drop in with "you're glorifying obesity" are not people who are interested in a good faith conversation, generally speaking. It is an extraordinarily strange social impulse to see a photo of someone having a good day and say,
there's no like link
there's
in
an
my
agenda.
bio. There's no link in my bio for 30% off at McDonald's. Do you know what I mean? Like there's literally no endorsement of anything. Yeah. They're just wearing a nice skirt. They're daring to wear a skirt. They're enjoying their lives. They look happy. They might be in love. They might be in love, God forbid, with a fat person, or even more, God forbid, with a thin person.
Even more, God forbid. Oh my gosh. This is so like, she is so reinforcing Aubrey's bullshit. Like, oh, do not be a Jamila. I mean, Jamila's in it herself, so this is a conversation between two zombies. But please do not ever back up someone's bullshit like this. Like, this is just so... Oh my gosh. It's like becoming super cringy to me. That was so cringy. Because it's giving like... I don't know. Like, it's kind of like this... I don't even want to say it. It's just it's the hierarchy within the TR. I'll just put it to you that way. It's the body hierarchy. And she's so reinforcing it. What's an even bigger deal if you're with a thin person as a fat person? And she's trying to act like she's being sarcastic, or she's like, of course I don't feel that way, but of course everybody feels that way but me. You see? That's toxic. That's backing it up. That's putting gasoline on a fire. That's wrong. Or petrol, in Jamila's case. It's wrong. So that's the exact thing where I'm like, do not give the TR credit. Ever. Ever, ever, ever. It's just awful. Oh, I hated that.
Remarkable.
It's bonkers. And I think, we've spoken about this before, like it comes from a fear-based place, right? We look at fat and we think about the way that fat people are ostracized, and we think that we could catch it. I think we spoke about this the first time we ever hung out. Like
absolutely.
Contagion fear of fatness, of like, God,
fatness is available to everybody. So, and she might be talking about her experience because she's dealt with the reductive side of the TR. And if somebody is really that horrified by a fat person in the world, they likely have an issue within themselves. So they are also a zombie, basically. So sometimes the zombies fight each other, It's disorganized, I'm telling you. In reality, it is not organized. But it's very, very, I believe the word is like pernicious. It's just like it just keeps going. It will not stop. That's the thing about it is it just keeps on going. It's annoying. And it just repeats itself. It's repetitive. It's just annoying. But people are they don't say anything back, or they just don't want to deal with it, or they don't understand it. They're like, what the fuck? And so they're like, what? And then they go on, and then it just continues to like entrench itself in institutions and all this stuff.
You make me think that fatness is okay, that I might become fat because you've been promoting it to me, and then if I become fat, then I'm going to be ostracized.
Fun fact, people who embrace fat acceptance do tend to gain a lot of weight. So that's there is a valid criticism there, Jamila, because you can change. It is mutable. It is accessible.
Too.
Yeah.
And you really need to identify that knee-jerk reaction when the hairs on the back of your neck stand up when you see a picture of a fat person. Really, maybe write down the thoughts you're immediately having. I know that sounds like a lot to ask, but if it's something that keeps you up at night or makes you feel the need to comment to a stranger about their personal life, or even someone that you know and love and are related to.
Again, I reject that because fat activists will say things about strangers and all this stuff all the time. So they just want you to shut up and they want to be able to say whatever they want. So no, rejected, Jamila.
Really, like, what I love about your book is that you really force people to ask themselves why. And I think like in the sort of in the art of conversational combat, that's one of the most powerful tools you can ever do, where you don't put it upon yourself to explain them to you. You ask someone to investigate themselves, and almost always in doing so, they are then forced to unpack something, empathize, and they're not defensive because they're busy investigating themselves. And it's a really powerful tool that this book gifts so many people with.
Oh, that's so kind of you to say so. Yeah, I mean, I feel like that whole art of checking ourselves and checking in with ourselves, particularly around body image, particularly around...
Well, can we maybe reflect on our habits? Can we maybe reflect on our lack of activity? Can we maybe reflect on what we're taking in? Is that allowed, Aubrey? Is that a good idea too? Can we maybe check in and how horrible our body actually feels in the state that it's in, rather than dissociating?
Around our own anti-fat attitudes, or the ways that we think it's quote unquote helpful to treat fat people, almost always lead back to, as you identified, sort of a social fear, right? A fear of being treated and perceived the way that fat people are treated and perceived.
It's a projection. It's a TR projection.
And in all of those cases, the answer to alleviate that anxiety isn't...
Remember that the TR is basically rooted in fear and anxiety. So she's projecting.
Get thin, stay as thin as possible all the time. None of us are in full control of that at any point, right? Most of us aren't in control of it much at all. Nor is the answer to
Wrong, Aubrey.
create as much distance in between how people perceive fat people and how people perceive you, right? That's also not an answer, to sort of separate yourself out from fat people. The answer is to make the world a safer and more dignified and more welcoming place for fat people, right?
Yeah.
That if we're able to do that, then a lot of those social fears become less and less attractive to us. They pull on us less and less if we see more fat people.
It's never going to be good enough. I'm telling you, if you are a normal person watching, it will never be good enough because they're invested in having a problem that involves their body, because they have to in order to continue the cycle. So they will literally make something up, or they'll create a problem to be triggered at a severe level. If somebody's that big, they will do all that. So you cannot. There is no appeasing the Aubrey Gordons of the world. It's impossible. It's literally impossible. So I'm telling you now, no. Just don't go down that path. It's going to be ridiculous.
Being treated better and being accepted and loved and celebrated and lifted up, right, in our communities, that changes the dynamics of what we're...
So we want to lift up obese people, but that's not glorifying obesity, Aubrey. That is her whole job, is glorifying obesity.
Afraid of, right? It's a different thing to be afraid of, being a fat person, say, before the burst of Lizzo onto the scene than after, right? Like, that is a marked difference in how people perceive...
That didn't age well.
Fat people on some level. Imperfect, incomplete, should not be all on her shoulders, but we're seeing like big shifts in how people sort of think about and respond to fatness and fat bodies. And that's a result of seeing fat people celebrated, right?
Yeah. It also is worth stressing, even though it's so obvious, especially to a wonderful advanced audience like this one, but shame never works for anything. Shame might create a result very quickly and very briefly, as in it will not last, but shame doesn't work. Shame.
I'm not a fan of shame, to be honest. I'm not, even at like lower levels, I'm just not a fan of it, because it's kind of like, even if the TR within you is weak or it's mild or it was never that big of a thing, it's still, shame is kind of like blowing on the embers. It's like, that's what it does. So I don't like it. I think it's dangerous a little bit. So I don't suggest it. If you want to talk shame, don't shame your appearance, or don't shame like how you look or your weight, that kind of stuff. I don't agree with that. I don't. There are going to be people around you that do it. You can't control what other people do. Remember, that's a part of the TR as well, is this desire to control what other people do, especially in regard to their body and their, their routines and stuff like that. You'll have an instinct where if somebody says something around you, you'll be like, no, you can't. Don't go down that path, because it's impossible. So I'm talking about you as an individual. If you've struggled with the TR, I would suggest not ever using shame. It's kind of like one of those lines you just don't cross, because it is very much, in my opinion, that it's like that. I'm blowing on the embers, and that ember could become, if the embers are totally dead, then you wouldn't even be blowing on it. You get what I'm saying? So like, I don't feel ashamed that I had food noise. I don't at all. I just try to think about why I might. And it's like, I'm bored, I'm this, I'm that, I have a migraine, and I explain the whole thing. But I didn't feel shame for it. And that's, to me, that's a more stable place to be. You can shame, like, if you're being undisciplined or something, that's different. So, but make it more so about, like, your efforts, if that makes any sense. Not like how you look or who you are as a person or this kind of stuff. It's like, if I don't want to go to the gym one day just because I'm feeling lazy, like if you're having like a lazy moment, I don't think there's anything wrong with shaming laziness. I don't think it's a good thing. So like, if I just didn't want to go to the gym because I just don't want to, that's not a good reason. If I don't want to go to the gym because I'm sick, that's valid. If I don't want to go to the gym because it's cold or I have something amazing to do instead, or, something like I'm on a trip or something, that's different. But if it's just because I don't feel like it, or if it's just a feeling, that's not enough. There has to be a real reason. So I think you have to think of things that way. So much in the TR is so like anxiety based and feelings based. And you have to think about, like, do I have a real reason? Do I have a real reason to eat right now? And that can be a really simple question. I don't. So I am not. I've already had my allotment for the day. I'm not hungry. There's really no reason. You see? It's not a special occasion. There's nothing going on. And again, don't like special occasion mind and try to have a special occasion every 10 seconds. But I'm just saying, be reasonable with that kind of stuff. I'm just saying, like, there has to be a reason, It's the same thing where if you're not going to go to the gym, you need to have a reason. If there's like 5 inches of ice outside and you're in an area that isn't geared towards dealing with that type of weather at all, okay, that's a reason. But you just try to accommodate. Like, I didn't go to the gym today on Monday because I was concerned about the ice, but I went a day earlier, and then I can just continue my routine. Because if you're able to continue the routine again, it's easier because it becomes more passive and it takes less willpower. So I still think you should, I'm going to talk about rigidity versus flexibility. I showed the rigid side in the Lana era. The next era, we're going to show flexibility because there's a balance to that. But yeah, I have a lot to say. Gosh, for having such a migraine, I really have a lot to say.
Creates only unhealthy emotional and physical health in those whom we share.
Always remember to be calm, though. So make sure that you're making these decisions from a calm place. I just had to say that. Don't make it from an anxiety place. So not, oh, I don't know, the gym. Oh my gosh, I don't know. No. Calm. Calm. I'll just go to the gym Sunday. It's okay to complain about it. I was like, I text my best friend. I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe I have to go today. I hate it so much. And I was just being bitchy. But then I was also like there and I was fine. And I'm like, I'm not going to let a little rain stop me. It was just raining here, And it's like, I'm fine when I'm there. But I think sometimes we just put too much stock in emotion when it comes to these things. And you just kind of have to divorce it from that because there's nothing wrong with your emotions. But when it comes to your health and your routines with health, your emotions should not dictate them. It shouldn't be based in that. It should always be based in physical reality. So my emotions about the gym, I'm like, oh gosh, I don't want to have to go. I have to go a day earlier than I usually do. Then I get there and I'm like, oh, I still went, even though it was raining. And take a cute picture. You see how the feelings changed, but it didn't really influence the behavior. That's what you want. You want that to be divorced from that.
And I know this as someone...
That's normal. That's a normal approach to a health routine. There isn't emotion. Emotion does not dictate it.
Who was shamed into losing weight, who was shamed into staying thin, who was shamed when I gained weight. It has never had the desired long-term impact that anyone wanted it to have on me.
Well, and it corrodes our relationships, right?
Yes.
Like it messes with...
And it corrodes our relationship with ourselves, by the way. Like that shame that you externalize onto someone else, that you project on someone else, it's all seeping in to you. It's all going in. You're drinking the poison yourself. Sorry,
absolutely. Well, and spreading it to others.
Always remember to criticize the ideas of a person in the TR, or the lack of logic, or the ridiculousness of some of the beliefs, but do not make it about the person as a person. I don't agree with that. I don't think it's helpful. And absolutely, please do not, especially if it's somebody like right in front of your face and all that, for the love of God, please do not make it about appearance. That is like, oh gosh, please don't do that.
For people, right? There is this concept that social psychologists will talk about called normative discontent, which is, I think the classic example is when people bond over disliking parts of their bodies, or say that they're quote unquote venting about their body image. And what research has shown about that is that when we think we're venting about our own body image, what we're doing is reinforcing that narrative to ourselves, that our bodies are worthless, that they're undesirable, that they're whatever, and that has an effect on the people that we're talking to and anyone.
Yes, the TR is reinforcing in people that have the problem. So a normal person will hear somebody say something like that and they don't make a connection to their own body. That's a normal response. So it's like, a friend will say something and they're like, oh gosh, I feel fat today. A normal person hears that and they're like, okay, she feels fat today, whatever. A TR person hears that and they're like, oh my gosh, I'm fatter than her though. She must think I look horrible then. You see? But that's not really normal. Like there is a separation. We don't all share a communal body. That's bizarre. But that's how people in the TR act.
One in earshot, right? So when we're venting about this stuff, that is both reinforcing our own negative body image. We think of it as blowing off steam. It's actually reinforcing that narrative, and it's instructing other people around you.
Your goal is you want to get towards that normal response. It's okay to not feel that way, but just understand that if somebody says something about their body and you feel like it's about yours, that is a disordered response. So you have to kind of like regulate and be like, no, that's wrong. That is not, and I don't mean wrong morally, I just mean like wrong logically. That is incorrect logic. So you have to kind of, that is incorrect, basically. And so then you're like, okay. And so you kind of check yourself there. And eventually you'll get over it. And then you won't care. Because I don't care at all. Like I'm telling you, you can get there. Like, because you can't control how other people talk and stuff. Like you can't insulate yourself that way. It puts your recovery at risk if you're like in a bubble all the time and you can't handle anything. I do my best on this channel because I have a lot of knowledge about the issue, and I don't, as I've said, as an activist commenting on appearance, it doesn't have enough bang for the buck in terms of the point I can make versus the result. So or versus the possible risk. So I don't, because I don't talk about it that much. I will occasionally, or maybe there's the tiniest joke here or there somewhere, but it's not like a major part of what I repetitively say, because I just think I want it to be a little bit safer here than the world. But I will tell you, you need to deal with it when it's in the world. And I will react to people that say certain things, right? And then I'll show you how I handle it, type of thing. Or I will collab or talk with people that will talk about appearance and stuff, and I don't feel any animosity towards them. It's just what I choose to do. As somebody who struggled with this issue, I choose to do that because I think, like I said, I'm wanting to have it more geared towards that, you know? So that's my decision, but that's my personal decision on this channel. I'm not saying I'm better than anybody. I'm just describing why I do that, why this channel to a certain extent might be a little bit safer from especially appearance-based shaming than the world. But I will tell you, you have to prepare yourself for that because it's going to happen. And Aubrey's response of like, we have to stop other people from saying that, that's never going to happen. It's a way to keep herself upset because it will continually happen forever.
How you expect them to
You
feel
don't want
about their
that.
bodies too. Even if that's not what we intend, that's the message that is received by that behavior. So it just seems worth like unpacking that both it is, something that we internalize, and it's something that when we internalize it and then have to deal with it.
Only in the TR, Aubrey. Not every single person in the whole world has it. It's not true. Most people don't.
We also are creating a new social reality for the folks around us too. It creates its own sort of gravitational pull,
100%.
Not for everyone.
Creates this negativity loop that only benefits the people who make money off of our discontent with ourselves and sometimes each other. So what would you say is the thing that you most hope to achieve from this book?
I think we're in a place now where, thanks to shows like this one, thanks to sort of a growing social sort of and political literacy around anti-fatness, more and more people are identifying anti-fat bias out in the wild more and more frequently, and it's kind of blowing their minds. Right? They're having the like galaxy brain response to the amount of anti-fatness in the world. And what happens at that point in someone's political education, it happens to me on every issue when I get there, is that it feels like this thing is so pervasive, I can't imagine where to start. And anything I come up with feels incomplete and imperfect.
It's intentional, though, within this issue, because you then use it to fuel cycles. She won't say that part out loud, but I will.
My hope is that folks who are in that state or who are invested in this conversation and not sure where to start, pick up this book, get their own grounding for themselves in facts and science and history and all of that sort of stuff, so that they can then go out and do what they know how to do, which is tell their cousin who won't shut up about CrossFit that they don't want to hear it right now, or talk to their parents about, ditching some outdated language or ideas about fat people and what they should or shouldn't be wearing, right?
Well, we might be able to do the opposite, because it comes straight from the TR mind, That's why I like to take some of their terms and stuff and use it, because it also helps people who have been in the TR, because that framework is already there. So maybe we could just turn it back on them, Well, don't you think that view is kind of outdated? Gen Z could be like, that's giving millennial cringe. It's kind of outdated.
Or
thinking that you can't lose weight is so 2018 or something. It's so 2016, Thinking you can't lose weight is so 2014. Like, ugh, so old.
Or talk to the healthcare providers in your life about their biases and treatment of fat patients, right? These are all things that many of us know how to do. We know how to kind of get our friends and family in line. We know how to speak up when things aren't right. But on this particular issue, if folks don't feel like they've got their grounding in a narrative that makes sense to them, in some facts that feel solid to them, that'll be a barrier to taking action. So my hope is to remove that barrier.
Yeah, it feels like this is the much needed antidote to the age of misinformation. We have it coming out in many other areas, and it continuously gets overlooked. And as we mentioned earlier, the pandemic brought back up so many old, inaccurate, debunked myths around fat people. And
it brought a huge reality check. That's what it did.
That desperately needed some proper fact checking. And I thank you for always doing due diligence in your precision around these subjects, and how, even though you have an emotional footing in this, right now we're talking and you're in a closet in your mother's home, and behind you is a 1980s weighing scale that is your childhood weighing scale that is still there. Why?
Which is very bizarre.
It's my mom's house and she still has it. I don't know, it's moved with her across state lines a couple of times. And for the listener, I will say, it's not a flat digital scale. It's the old-timey doctor's office one.
That you have to keep tapping back and forth until it is like a spirit level, right? Until it's completely straight.
So I'll say this. Anytime I come down here every December and spend a little time with family. And when I do, I record in this closet because it's the most sort of soundproof room in the space. And every time, this is the one place where you can set a chair and a laptop. So every time this scale is in the background. This time when I came down to visit, I told my mom that it had been like a kind of hilarious icebreaker in interviews to have this scale in the background. And she felt badly about it, so she hung a picture on the scale when I first got here. But it was like a little tiny picture, so you could see that it was a picture hanging on it didn't cover it up. She was like, I just thought I'd decorate it. I thought it was really funny and really charming.
That's so funny. If you ever end up burning that scale, please send us a video. But what I was going to say is that you are someone who, as a child, were put on diets, encouraged to diet. That happened throughout a large portion of your life. You have faced fat phobia, you faced discrimination. For years, you didn't feel safe to even put your face and real name out there online because of the danger that you were in. This is something that has very much so personally affected you, and yet in all of your work, staggeringly to me, you managed to be personal but also not personal in your arguments. This is like a factual precision strike that we desperately need, where it becomes incredibly obvious to someone like me that your activism, Shea Yakuwowo says, it should always be trauma-informed but never trauma-led, and I really feel that about your work. And so everyone...
Okay, that is completely wrong, Jamila. My gosh. She is so still in her issues. She never got over it at all. That is just the exact opposite of the truth. But I will say, on a human level, I have to say this is kind of a different this is a moment for me. But I used to say that I personally did not like Aubrey, and I did honestly feel a sort of vendetta against her because of how awful her rhetoric was to me when I was tortured. But in this moment, tonight, watching them, I think that that's gone. Because for some reason, I'm reminded that the disorder is not who either of them are. Which it's really important to remember that when we do this fight. You know, this may be a zombie outbreak, but this is zombieism that has a cure. There is a cure. A person can wake up, they can come back. And so it does make the fight complicated, because the fight is not about, you know, eliminating the enemy. The fight is about waking up the humanity in these people to the best that we can, because it's tragic. You have to remember, it comes from trauma. You know, it is a trauma response or an extreme stress response. People don't come to this because they think it's cool. They come to it because something horrible happened. So I think it's important to keep that perspective. And again, I think I can say it tonight. I don't, at this moment at least, maybe it's the migraine, or maybe it is some kind of spiritual evolution. I don't know. But I don't feel a personal issue against Aubrey anymore. I'm like, I understand. Like, I see her as a person. Like, I saw her humanity there while she was talking about the scale and all that. And just in general, just as they were talking, I'm like, gosh, you know, I can really see that they really think they're helping. They really wish they were helping. But they're struggling. And a lot of the times, it's the blind leading the blind. And it's the blind wanting to shield somebody from the deep anxiety that they feel, which I can understand. And so there is, you know, it is like a zombie that's being taken over, and the humanity is trying to fight back within them. You know, it's really guttural. But it's still wrong. And you still can't affirm. So, because I can assure you, like, even though the desire to try to shield people from the anxiety that you feel is not a bad desire, it's not anywhere near as helpful as getting out completely and encouraging others to get out completely. Being out of the TR is the ultimate liberation for somebody in it. But it's tough. It is. I know if Aubrey were to leave the TR, it would be so hard for her. She'd have a tortured era. She'd be miserable. It'd be so hard for her, probably for years. But at the end of the day, she'd still be getting happier and happier each day. She'd still be healing every day. And it forces you to deal with all these issues and all this trauma and all these things that you bury. And she would become a better person at the end. You know, she would become a healed person if she left the TR. But she won't. So it's very sad. It is sad, and I just don't want you to be like her. If she ever did, I would be the first person to celebrate it. But I don't see it happening, unfortunately.
Go out and buy You Just Need to Lose Weight and 19 Other Myths About Fat People. It is whether you are fat, whether you are not, whether you know fat people or don't, which would be really fucking weird. I hope you will go out and buy this book, because it's like armor. It's incredible. I feel like one of the fucking Avengers now. Like I have a shield of information around me. And so buy the book, write in,
Gosh.
follow Aubrey. She's the fucking
She's
best.
talking about
So
it like
many of
it's the Bible or something, you know? I'm like, oh my gosh, girl, get a grip. You don't have to kiss her ass that much. Sorry, that was harsh, but that was just too much for me. I'm going to stop it there. I couldn't handle that. That was kind of fake to me, Jamila. But okay, I will talk to you guys later. Have a good rest of your day, night, etc. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.